Hello, everyone. You're listening to the 805 Uncensored, a show on the Anti-Capitalist Podcast Network, hosted by three leftists, recorded on occupied Chumash and Timucuan land. This podcast covers a variety of topics from music to politics, news, philosophy, spirituality, and more. There are no limits, which is why we are uncensored. So, welcome. Please follow us on your podcast and social media platforms of choice. And this episode, we're excited to welcome our regulars, Heather and Camila, and we also have a newbie, Waseem. Waseem, you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself to our listeners, talk about your background, and if you feel comfortable, a little bit about your politics.
Yeah, sure. So for those of you that don't know, my name is Waseem, and I'm a master's student at the University of Saskatchewan. I study atmospheric science at the Institute of Space and Atmospheric Science. So it's a laboratory here in the physics program. And so my research interests are in climatology, atmospheric chemistry, chemistry-climate interactions, and also satellite modeling for those purposes. And my current master's project uh, is about determining to see if a CubeSat can measure vertical profiles of ozone in the atmosphere. So,
Fascinating. Yeah, thank you
yeah.
again for being here. Um, so the first thing that I wanted to talk about with you guys was just the ongoing pro-Palestine protests on college campuses. I think that that's super awesome. And they only seem to be growing across the country. You know, last week it started with Columbia, and now there's all kinds of campuses all across the country. And I'm just going to show this quick video from Al Jazeera.
Did he freeze?
What's that?
Oh no, are you gonna play? Or is it playing right now?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't see it.
Oh, really? Yeah, Wasim, can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it on my end. I'm not sure about everybody else though.
Is
Okay,
she on
yeah,
mobile? I wonder if it's because she's on mobile.
might be. Are you on your phone, Camila?
I don't have my computer here.
Okay, yeah, it's probably because you're on your phone.
Yeah.
Just
Okay,
because we can all see.
sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so I was just reading while that video was on that 100 people were also arrested today, staging pro-Palestine protests at University of Arizona and also Indiana University Bloomington. So this isn't going anywhere, and I was just talking to some comrades the other day. I think that this is going to go well into the summer and probably into the fall, given that this is an election year. What do you guys think?
I mean, I agree with you. And I think also because a lot of these students are very quickly being like suspended and expelled from their schools. And so like what do they have to lose, right? Like they have
Right.
nothing left to lose. And even before getting expelled or suspended, a lot of like as I see it, like these kids have nothing to lose. Like look at this world that they are like some of them are graduating this year. And look at the world that they're graduating into. Like no job, boiling planet, like what what else do they have, you know? So
Growing up.
I agree with you.
Yeah, and I really like that point. I came across a video and she was just, bawling, crying, talking about the concept of these students that are protesting about how they've just had to live in constant fear of being killed in their schools, because of gun violence. And one of our great comrades, Tony, in the chat recently made a good point too. It's quite possible many of these students that are protesting right now were also not able to graduate in 2020 because of the COVID pandemic. So now at schools like USC, they're having their commencements canceled, and it's really fucked up. All just because they're taking a stance for humanity and against this genocide. I also heard right now that the the escalation in Rafah is like the invasion in Rafah is escalating, I should say. So that's particularly horrific. I just I'm really inspired by these students. They're really brave and heroic, and it's great to see so many people taking a stance against this. I think this is probably jumping ahead a little bit, and we might kind of overlap with this, but nonetheless, I think it's also on topic right now to talk about the arrest that took place at Emory University, Emory College in Atlanta. The reason that that's relevant is because of Cop City, that's also taking place in Atlanta. Um, and there were also Cop City protests that were taking place while on Emory's campus. So I think that that was pretty interesting and worth talking about.
Well, and it's not just, and that highlights also like that it's not even just students. Like the arrest at Emory was, I think, the
Right.
philosophy chair,
Yeah,
uh, and a
arresting
couple.
professors.
Yeah, and then I saw another university, I think it was in Texas, where the chair of like the dean of graduate admissions or the graduate studies or something like that, she was talking to like the crowd, and she was saying like they're trying to break the link between us and our students, and we can't like let that happen. And she said, I think I'm going to get fired today, but we have to do it, and so I think it's really becoming just, I mean, it's spreading, like you said, it's spreading, and it's not just the students now. And again, like I think it's a testament to like how people just are like, people don't have anything else to lose. We do not have anything else to lose. um yeah.
And I also think it's just indicative of people just being fucking fed up. Like, when is enough enough?
Hmm.
Yeah. I really think people are waking up to the idea that it's like, oh, like today is the Palestinians, tomorrow is us. And like we're clearly seeing it with like, like the snipers showing up at the protest, like in multiple campuses. Right?
Yeah,
We see it by the brutalization of the students and even like white teachers, because like that
Yeah.
cop was beating like a white woman in her like
Yeah.
late 50s or whatever. Like, and she was like, I'm a professor, and boom, to the ground, like, no fucks given, so, like, I think it's really clicking, especially with like the younger generations, because they are more involved, especially those in colleges, right? They're more aware of their environment. They might be more diverse than, like your other generation, your previous generation. So, like, when you have a diverse background, you have multiple stories, and they're all pointing to the same perpetrator, and pieces are clicking together, and they're like, wait, really gotta stop this, because this is not good for us or our future. So, and that's kind of empowering to see. And but also, what it reminds me of is the civil unrest here in Chile. And I'm sorry about the background, I'm at a family party right now. But yeah, like the civil unrest here to Chile, like, led to pretty much nothing. We don't even have a new that didn't even pass. So, like, I see that all of the people survive. Whoa, what is that?
It has been weeks.
Wait, it said I was muted.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what that was. And
Sorry
so,
about that.
it's okay, that were brutalized and, like, lost their eyes or lost their lives, and kind of like nothing came of it. If anything, we kind of like have a bigger, like, more laws against, mass and, like, unrest, but also, like, we have more cops, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I hope that doesn't happen, but yeah, it's really empowering to see. And, like, I really applaud all the people that are, like, really, like, putting their livelihoods and their lives out there, because we know how cops are in the US, that give no fucks. So
Yeah, no, well said, Camila. You know what? I actually thought of something. You know how I sent you that video about Ron DeSantis? And I was just like, DeSantis, try not to be a fascist asshole challenge, impossible. And he was talking about the college protesters and how they shouldn't try that in Florida because they'll be expelled. And so I'd like to play the audio of him talking about that right now.
Chasing Jewish students around, when you're not letting a Jewish professor enter a building, when you're targeting people like that, that's not free speech. I mean, that's harassment. That violates appropriate conduct. And yet, at Columbia, at Yale, all these places, those folks rule the roost. They do whatever they want. And these administrators and the presidents of these universities are weak. They're scared, and they don't do anything. You do that in Florida at our universities, we're showing you the door. You're going to be expelled when you're doing that stuff. And you know what? The minute people start to face consequences, you are not going to see this nonsense going on. They're taking over bridges and they're taking over roads. And first of all, you don't have a right to do that. You have someone get stuck in traffic. How do you know if someone may need to get to a hospital? Someone may need to pick up a child somewhere, and you're just going to commandeer the road because you have this ideological prediction. They tried to do that in Miami, and what happened? In 10 minutes, they got dragged off the road where they belong, and we're not going to tolerate that.
it urged me to hear that man talk. Like, it really gets to me. I live in Florida, so like, I purposely avoid this guy. Just, like, I don't want to watch anything of his because it just rubs me. He rubs me the wrong way. But he's, like, such a fascist, and, like, he changed the laws in Florida surrounding protests. And he's just, like, changing the laws to however he wants, no matter, like, the repercussions. And it doesn't surprise me at all that he speaks this way. But also, it's interesting with the right, how like, I feel like the right is a little bit divided in this issue, because, like, you see the right that, like, freaking are, like, anti-Semitic for real.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the right, like DeSantis, that support Israel. So I think it's It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, right? I think that's a good observation because I've kind of noticed the same thing.
Well, and that's funny because I also think there's like a third group. There's like I know I was talking to another parent, a tennis parent earlier today, and he's like a right-wing conspiracy theorist. Like, I mean, like he sends me shit about like chemtrails all the time and like all kinds of really out there crazy shit, like anti-vax shit. But then he was like saying he was calling Bibi Netanyahu a Nazi. I was like, wait a second.
I mean, he
Because
acts like one.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, I don't know what the saying is. Something about how everybody gets something right once in a while. But
Fucking
and
clock limit.
yeah. So, but I do want to say that I do agree with DeSantis on one thing, only not for the same reason. So, I totally agree that the administrations of these universities are completely weak, and the evidence of that is that they called the cops in. Like
Yes.
they should have been able to allow students to exercise their free speech, to have a place to do that, and even like engage in negotiations about the demands of the students, because they have issued demands. They should have been able to do that without calling in the cops, and for Columbia without calling in the Congress. Like, I don't know if you guys saw, but like Mike Johnson visited, and a
Mm.
bunch of other of the Republican congressmen went and visited Columbia, and they should have been able to do that without having to engage in bringing in those outside parties. Um, so I do have to say I agree with him, but for a different reason, you know.
Well, but I also feel like they're weak only when it's convenient to them. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And they look for other resources only when it's like serving their purposes. Because we know how it is when like like the so-called other side like says or does something like they know how to handle it and they know how to talk and they know how to communicate with the students and give them whatever they want. But when they need a bully, they call the cops. When they need somebody to be bullied, that's the way I see it. I could be wrong, but
No, I totally agree. It's
I agree.
always the methodology used to just crush any protest movement. It's always the default method. It doesn't matter whether it's the fucking blue MAGA or red MAGA. Hey, Lizzie.
Heather, uh, hello. I was gonna ask you, that guy that sends you those videos and stuff, is he like a libertarian? Because I know a lot of the libertarians
Yeah,
are. Yeah,
I
so that
think
makes
I
sense.
I think he might be. Yeah, he told me that he ran for Congress here in 2016, and I don't recall that, so I'm gonna have to look into it. I think he might be a libertarian.
I will put my money on that because
Yeah.
that's like I really follow like all those like weird fucking French, like, well, I guess they're not even weird anymore, but like they really just like that really goes with the train of thought of like a lot of libertarians, and they're really split, which is weird too because a lot of them support you know
Yeah.
Israel and a lot of them don't, and
Yeah.
I
it's
don't. Yeah,
weird.
like, if you're a true like libertarian and you support Israel, you're full of shit. Like, what is a more like fucking perfect example of an oppressive state force than
Well,
Israel and the U.S.? Like, how could you
right, like
possibly support that
fucking the Argentinian guy, fucking what's his name,
Millet?
Malay. He's
Melee.
like fucking he went to like Israel. The first thing he did whenever he got elected, like that was one of the first trips he took, he like converted into Judaism and went to Israel, you know?
Yeah,
And
like
he's supposed to be a libertarian. So
yeah, it doesn't
yeah,
make any sense.
yeah. But other ones, like the true ones, the ones that actually have read, you
Hmm.
know, they like tend to oppose like the violence that, you know. and the state, like they say, oh, fuck both governments, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly, and that's more consistent with libertarian ideology.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so if you guys have anything else that you want to say about this topic? Okay. Lizzie just joined us, by the way, too. She hosts a project called the Do Nothing Society. So shout out to them.
I just lifted my hand because I do have something to say.
Yeah,
Um, I guess over 75 colleges are like having different actions for Palestine, like per week. So that's a lot.
that is a lot. That's great. And it's
All
only
the
going to
profit.
get, wow.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get more popular.
Yeah. And then also, so anticipating pro-Palestine campus divestment process, Portland State University has just announced it will pause accepting donations from genocide profiteer Boeing. So, some things are moving.
I know, and this is, I know you guys probably feel the same way as me. Like for months on end, it just felt like things were fucking hopeless with the situation in Gaza. So at least these students are giving us a sense of something to be hopeful for.
Yeah, and also, this has brought light to the issue once again because, like, the whole fucking, oh yeah, I genocide. We know, like, it was like people were kind of getting used to it. That's when it's dangerous.
Exactly, the normalization of it. Okay, so the next topic that I wanted to move on to was Heather and I wanted to discuss bird flu. Before I start this video, I just wanted to share something with you guys that I thought is quite alarming. So, like for the past few weeks, I've just been going on walks on the beach here where I live in Oxnard on the Southern California coast, and I've been noticing like every single day. And keep in mind, I'm obviously not like a marine biologist or anything. I'm not an expert on the subject, but I've noticed a number of dead marine birds on the beach literally every time that I walk. And it's not like one or two, it's usually like eight or nine. And so, with all this news coming out about bird flu, I can't help but think that it could potentially be connected to that because I can't remember ever seeing that before. So, yeah, I will go ahead and start this video now. This is about bird flu. Experts say the outbreak could be serious, which is, I think underestimating it for sure. But anyways, we'll play this video now.
Weeks since US authorities announced a bird flu outbreak on dairy farms, though they have repeatedly assured that it does not pose a risk to public or impact food or milk supply. The outbreak appears to be more serious than initially believed. The US Department of Agriculture has found evidence underlining that the virus is spreading among cows and from cows to poultry. Officials in North Carolina have detected bird flu infections in a cattle herd without observing any symptoms. The finding suggests that the infection may be more widespread than thought. It remains unclear how many total asymptomatic animals are there elsewhere, but one thing is certain here: incoherency between the US agencies responsible to contain the outbreak is to blame. Responsibility for monitoring and containing the outbreak lies with three agencies. USDA leads the investigation into the virus in cows, FDA oversees food safety, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is monitoring risks to people. The USDA does not require farms to test cattle for infection. Until Wednesday, there was a very limited testing going on in these farms. USADA had assured there was no danger. However, FDA kept continuing tests to ascertain the virus is eliminated. Many experts have complained that prospects of danger from virus should not have been ruled out so early. Now, experts warn that the federal response so far echoes early missteps during the pandemic and say that little has been learned from the lessons COVID had taught. Concerns have been brought up that federal officials have shared limited genetic information about the virus with scientists and with officials in other countries. This data is crucial to decode how the virus might be evolving as it spreads.
Yeah, least shocking news ever. Haven't learned anything. Cause Heather.
Yeah. I think the thing for me, my biggest concern is that it's happening when like we're seeing and I would love to hear Waseem's
Mm,
his comments about this, because it's happening when we're seeing like the hottest like month after month after month on the planet, right? And I keep seeing these Twitter threads by scientists talking with like these terrifying graphs about like the temperature of the ocean. And it seems like that's a perfect like environment for something like this to pop off, right? But I'm not a scientist, so I would love your perspective or your what your thoughts are on it.
On the flu epidemic.
Yeah.
All right. So I haven't looked too much into that just before coming here, but in my view, I would say that yeah, there definitely has to be, a much better, you know, proactive response from the authorities, as what the news was saying. And in my view, now in terms of like how diseases and climate is correlated and how it correlates with the environment, there's actually I've noticed even since the pandemic, they've been presenting. I remember there was a clip on Democracy Now! Where somebody was where they brought a researcher in and they got her to describe, let's say, the link between habitat loss and also the prevalence of emergence of new diseases. And so there's lots of evidence around that. There's also a lot of evidence around uh, as another cause is that there's also overcrowding, let's say, of certain animals. Like for example, is factory farming. There's a lot of when you have a whole bunch of animals close together and a whole bunch of uh, it allows for a lot of viruses to sort of replicate more rapidly in that population, so and become more prevalent. So that's risk factors for leading to these outbreaks. But again, I'm not the expert on that, but these are some of the things that I've read in other uh, research papers and also news articles as well.
And didn't he say in that video that the USDA does not require farmers to test these animals?
yeah, I did hear that. It's also, I think, worth mentioning what you put here in our notes, which is that bird flu has a 50% mortality rate, and it's not discretionary to certain groups,
Mm-hmm.
such as COVID, the elderly, immune compromised, etc. And now that the virus was found replicating in the lungs of cows, meaning it'll rapidly become efficient in spreading via the air from mammal to mammal, zoonotic, going to humans. It's only a matter of time. So I guess the bigger question for everybody on the panel is, how do we see this playing out in the U.S.? Um, do you think that it'll be comparable to COVID? Yeah, go ahead, Lizzie.
Oh, hey, sorry. I just wanted to mention, hi, I'm Lissie. I'm at the Cal Poly Humboldt protest right now.
Nice.
Palestine. And so I was just offering, because I only have like 19% battery on this. I was offering to like walk you guys by the
Awesome.
main
Yes,
gathering
please.
spot while I still have battery. Okay. Well, also, as tactical stuff, made this space in the front of this
Put her on the big screen.
This here is the border.
Wow.
And there's a lot of sweet messages. Most of it's chalk, so all of the talks about like, oh, it's graffiti, It's pretty silly because most of it's chalk. It's chalk too. We set up some hammocks in here, which have gotten very positive response. It's very with the Do Nothing group, so a lot of it is how to loiter in public space. And these are some homies.
I know how to make sign.
Hell yeah. This is my bro. He's in there.
Hello.
So this is the welcome wagon for things. I'm gonna get my phone because I'm on hotspot on my iPad. Okay. These are, so we talked a lot about the symbology of putting something up in front of a tree. Given the destruction of the environment in Gaza, all of trees being removed. So we also did a ceremonial, I collected some heirloom olives. So we planted seeds here in secret, sort of. They're not very obvious, but yeah, so that was also a positive thing. There's a lot of people running around with offering snacks all the time. There's a snack crew. Past there is like the main camp, and there's a mutual aid health tent. There's food, free food. People have already scheduled like their own like shifts for covering, at nighttime or covering. Nighttime is when people start to leave, so it's when things are more vulnerable and when people really need to show up. I'm trying to spend the night under the tree, hopefully, unless police come. But this is a nice tactic down here, I think, because it's not blocking the road, but it's interacting with the community and in a very inviting way, in a very Humboldt way. And there's been a lot of positive honking too.
Oh, yeah,
Also,
that's great.
people talking about dressing up in fun costumes. So we've gotten a couple fun animals here. There is police presence for sure. They have been kind of friendly, at least to me, but I don't know. A lot of community onlookers. Oh shoot, this is a new development across the way. A lot of music. This is important, I think. Holy shit. I think, yeah, if it was like a concert, like how we used to do it back in the 60s, it'd be very effective. It's really beautiful to see across the way too.
Oh, yeah.
It's a much more inviting thing. Ooh, this is nice. This is really smart. You guys are geniuses. Whoever did this, so smart. Oh my god. Fucking genius, I swear. Because it's got to be like a cookout, I think. Like the revolution has to be fun.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot as a community about like gatherings and the lack of sacred gatherings, the lack of free concerts. Like it's really expensive to host concerts at our ballpark. It costs like, you have to get $2 million of insurance. You have to spend a bunch of money. And I think it's because free music is really unifying. This is an awesome organic development. Someone's girlfriend called them and they showed up. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, super smart. And a way to engage with the community instead of like when people block at airports and stuff, it pisses people off.
Yeah.
But if we do free music, and I mean, how can you hate this?
Yeah, this definitely doesn't look as like menacing and
No.
crazy as the mainstream media is portraying it to be.
It's got pretty all right, actually. Yeah.
What did that congressman say? Totalitarian protesters.
Yeah, wow. Totalitarian protesters setting up hammocks.
This is very meta. I'm recording on a podcast, so hi. Do you have any comments? I'm live, so you're live. And we're live and live. It's really meta, man. With red-headed black belt. Oh shit! Okay, I've heard of you. You're big. Yeah, you're local. You're local cat. All right, hi. I'm Lissie with the Do Nothing Project. Okay. Yeah. So. Oh yeah. Oh shit! This is so cool. So yeah, I mean, right now vibes are okay. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, looks
Yeah.
like it.
Chili peppers?
What if things were fun? Like, is there a way
Right.
for us to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right.
If you hang out with me, you're gonna have a good time.
All right. Yeah.
That's the way
I mean,
it
can't we bring back like cookouts and like public gatherings, like free concerts?
Yeah.
We've been talking about trying to do free concerts, and it costs like you get $2 million of insurance to rent the ballpark.
They do them
And
in
it's a lot of
McKinleyville
money.
at the Pearson Park.
Well, it's really discouraging to people when like we can't do like free
so every
gatherings.
Thursday in the spring, or in the fall,
Okay.
they open Pearson Park in McKinleyville,
Okay.
and they have free concerts. Like you just show up, and there's like they have local bands, different bands.
That's a good.
It's
that's
awesome.
a good place. We
They
should
have
be
some
hanging
food
out more.
trucks,
All right.
some beer.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Do you have any comments to the homies?
Be safe, guys.
Be safe. Okay. Thank you guys. Okay. Yeah. So wanted to offer.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. I love
Awesome.
it.
Some organic. Yeah. Because I think it's experiential design too. Like we need to like design an experience of revolution that doesn't suck. So that's part of where I'm coming from. And thank you guys. I'll stop. Yeah, you guys can converse now.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna shout out Do Nothing Society and your main page in
Thank
the description.
you.
Thank you, Lissie. I appreciate everything that you're doing. Be safe out there.
For sure, man. Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Or actually, too, I'm just curious. I want to, if you guys have any comments or reflections or advice, because we're literally here and also kind of concerned about the eventual cops escalation potentially, because apparently the higher up admin are concerned. Anyway, yeah.
I can't really think of anything right now.
I think it looks great. I think it's a very positive environment. It's definitely not, like I said, what is being portrayed on the mainstream media. And so I guess if I were to make a piece or offer a piece of advice, it's to stay focused on like what is going on around you guys instead of what is on the news, because it just looks like a, I don't know, peaceful festival, to be
Right?
honest with you.
Do you guys need like more coverage? Would you like more people to be documenting this? Because we actually have a journalist that's on this call right now.
Yeah, that would. A lot of people are concerned. Hi.
Hi, I love your center. I said, what B&B agency did you get? I said, I want it.
Thanks, man.
I'm heading out.
Okay.
I'm gonna go to your
Izzy, how can you help her?
What'd you say?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi. Well, I am an independent journalist. I'm trying to get as much coverage as I can for all these encampments. If you ever want to do an interview or write your own thing or record your own video, I'll post it on my website. There's no censorship, there's no algorithm, and yeah, there's no sponsors. So yeah, you can post whatever you want.
That's super cool. Yeah, because there's so much here that is so cool, and if it could be expanded and supported and replicated, it's like we're learning on the job. So yeah.
Waseem, do you have any thoughts?
About what was shown? No,
Yeah.
that looks good. It's interesting, and it's good to see that everything is going well there, and just hopefully it stays that way for everyone.
Yeah, it looks like a really fun, positive environment. Just stay focused on the mission is all I would say.
Thanks, guys.
The, yeah, the the revolution is widespread. You know, like I say in previous episodes, there's a role for everybody. You know, not everybody's going to be able to fucking burn down and torch a cop car. Some people are going to be journalists. Some people are going to be putting together, um, you know, little encampments, handing out food to people, cleaning up trash. It's beautiful to see. So yeah, just stay focused. Appreciate it all.
Thank you. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna go because I only have 9% battery. But it was awesome. Think talking with you guys, and thank you for input as it's happening. So yeah, talk to you.
Absolutely. You're welcome back anytime. Bye. Okay, so you guys want to get back to bird flu, or do you think that we should start talking about like El Nino and climate change? I think we should maybe start talking about El Nino and climate change while we actually have somebody that studies atmospheric science on this call.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
for
Waseem,
sure.
just for some context, Heather and I came across an article from the Washington Post recently, and they were talking about the record warming that's being observed across the US. But the highlight in the article is basically dismissing anthropogenic climate change. You know, it's dismissing the human element, and it's just talking about, oh, this is a natural cycle from El Nino, and it's a really insidious example of gaslighting on the climate crisis, on the subject. So I'd like to hear just some of your thoughts about that and kind of just like dispel that myth because it's really easy for people to get confused by these false narratives that come out from mainstream media.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. Obviously, was climate change and anthropogenic global warming. It's you know, yeah, the context and also the comprehension is the key with this. So first, just was a little bit of background. So the El Nino that we're referring to here is just a climatic oscillation that occurs in the Pacific Ocean, and so you have the El Nino, which gives sort of like a warm body of water. It happens, it could happen, let's say, for a year or more, and then there's a process that occurs where the temperature of the water and the sea surface temperature changes to become cold, which is the La Nina phase. And so, and be, and it's quite strong enough to affect weather patterns and climate patterns around sort of outside of the tropical region. So this is occurring generally in the tropics, and then the El Nino Southern Oscillation, which is the scientific term that it's called. Its effects can stretch out all the way to polar regions. Now, though I did before this podcast, I actually did some research on that because I knew that we were going to talk quite substantially about this, and I looked at some of the latest research in regards to the current sort of warming trends and also the current trends just around the El Nino. And what they have found recently is that so there was a paper published in 2022. I call it Shin 2022, and what they found is that greenhouse gas increases will actually lead to stronger Eastern Pacific El Nino events and more frequent ones in the Central Pacific. So the likelihood of those occurring would actually increase. And then a year later, in 2023, there was about 3 different papers that were also released, one by Gan, one by Kim and colleagues, and also Liu and colleagues as well. And so the one by Gan mentioned that that anthropogenic forcing, so greenhouse gases emitted in the atmosphere, so human contributions to changing climate, increase the variability and the frequency of the El Nino. So it actually affects just how often it occurs, and it increased it roughly about like 60 to 75%. And then in Kim and colleagues, they also mentioned that so the oscillation that I was mentioning, how it like goes from El Nino to La Nina. One other thing that they like to, that you'll probably find in the news often that circulates around is that, if there's a strong El Nino, then there'll be a strong La Nina. And then if there's a vice versa, if there's a strong La Nina, it will lead to a strong El Nino. What they found is that it actually doesn't actually occur like that in reality. It doesn't actually do that, and so the process is not like directly cyclical like that, like the amplitude of the strength would stay the same. What it's showing what they actually found is that there's actually like a special wind from the north, from the what they call the North Pacific meridional mode, and they say that contributes more to when the La Nina and El Nino shifts occur. And so that also substantiated other papers, I think, that were also published in 2024, actually, just recently, saying that like a lot of these processes are actually mainly influenced by atmospheric processes as well. And so that one was by Serena Vest, 2024. Now, here's the interesting thing here, is that was about El Nino, is that greenhouse gases are actually having a significant effect on that, a really significant effect on it. And it's actually leading it that it could, that was more greenhouse gas being emitted in the atmosphere. It's actually leading to a decrease in Arctic sea ice content. And then the Arctic sea ice actually interacts with the El Nino by let's say when there's more Arctic sea ice, then that allows the El Nino to be less strong. It's more dampened. But now since it's receding, it's actually encouraging the El Nino to become more and more stronger. And
Did you see that there was a report that came out that said that Earth's rotation was actually slowing down due to the record low sea ice?
I haven't read that report specifically before coming here, but yeah, there has been some indication saying exactly how the Earth's rotation has been affected, or exactly how much it would be affected by it. But the thing, though, is that the Earth's rotation naturally has also been slowing down even before then. So even throughout just even just by using regular astronomics, like the Earth's rotation has been slowing down even for a long time. So it seems like the paper was just sent here, so I'm going to read more into it.
This is what I pulled up the study right now. This is what the study claims. It says that human influence has monkeyed with a force that scholars, stargazers, and scientists have puzzled over for a millennia, something long considered a constant that was out of humanity's control. The study suggests that climate change is playing a significant enough role in the Earth's rotation to counteract an opposing trend because of a combination of factors. The Earth has begun to spin faster in recent decades, a temporary trend that prompted scientists for the first time to consider subtracting a single negative leap second from clocks worldwide as soon as 2026. But the melting of ice has delayed that possibility by 3 years. If timekeeping organizations do eventually decide to add a negative leap second, the adjustment could disrupt computer networks. About 70 million years ago, days were shorter and lasted roughly 23.5 hours. That means that Cretaceous dinosaurs experienced a planet that had 372 days in each year.
All right. Sorry, I couldn't find the page that you were looking at.
This is on NBC News.
Oh, NBC News. Okay, so this is I thought you were reading from the paper, but you're reading from the news. But
Yeah,
yeah,
the
so
news
I'm
was
gonna just
from the
glance. Sorry. So yeah, I'm just gonna take a moment just to read the abstract a bit here. That's fine.
Mhm. Um, there was something else that I wanted to bring up too. Uh, I actually recently wrote an op-ed for Izzy, the host of Anarch Orange. I wrote an op-ed about wildfires and climate change in California, and I wrote that California's 10 warmest summers, starting with the hottest, were 2021, 2017, 2018, 2022, 2006, 2016, 2015, 1961, 1996, and 2020. But oddly enough, last summer was the coolest summer across California in many areas. But it might be somewhat of an anomaly because scientists are not expecting that to happen again this year.
And it's such like an unfortunate thing too, because like whenever we have like a cool summer, I feel like everybody who wants to deny that climate change is happening, or if they hear like that list of the hottest summers, they immediately think of like, oh well, 1961. See, this has been happening forever, you
Yeah,
know,
they
or yeah.
cherry pick data.
Yeah. It's like they find something that confirm, they get confirmation bias by one little thing. I've spoken to so many people who in the last year have pointed to last summer as the definitive proof that climate change is not real because we had a pretty mild summer last year. And it's like it's nerve-wracking because um you know.
Yeah. I want.
Well,
I
yeah,
don't
and
know. It's just the thing that. Sorry, you wanted to
I
say
was
something?
yeah, I was just gonna say, and just going back to like the Washington Post article about the El Nino, like the entire purpose of them writing that article is to dismiss the human influence on the climate and just to
Yeah.
highlight that this is just natural cycles, and it's bullshit.
Yeah, I agree with you like on that. Like the media in general, like it doesn't matter like whether it's no matter what kind of political bias people think they had. Like the media, unfortunately, has not really done a good job at really communicating that entirely. That's just my opinion, but overall, like what we are finding here in the latest research is that yes, there is evidence that anthropogenic greenhouse gas heating is actually contributing to that. And then there was also another paper that I want to mention, one more. It was also published last year that it mentions, and so this one has to deal with about like decarbonization as well, and exactly how the El Nino Southern Oscillation could react. Let's say if uh, let's say over time, let's say if we have all the CO2 and the temperature goes up, what would happen if let's say we decarbonize and then let's how would the Southern Oscillation react to that? And they found that using some models, there's a bit of a hysteresis to it, meaning that there could be some latency as to when the temperature could actually of the average temperature of the Earth,
Mm.
or how, that the El Nino Southern Oscillation would actually go back to normal after that, which is interesting because to me that basically screams that like you know we should do as much as we can like now to just like limit like start limiting CO2 now, because if the more we add, the more hysteresis there would be that would prolong the warming, but even after decarbonizing it. So
I
so
have a
that's why
question.
every fraction of a degree is really
Okay.
important. But yeah, go ahead.
No, Jordan, go ahead. But I have a question about that also.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was actually just gonna ask if you think that we're near the point that greenhouse gases are going to reach a peak, at least in the United States, or if you think they're going to keep on escalating because of like, late stage capitalistic driven fallacy of forever economic growth.
It's hard to tell from so it really is going to be a factor of like, just people simply recognizing that this is real, this is a problem, and that it has to be done, and taking it seriously. And that's the thing. It doesn't matter, whether it's what kind of economic system there is. And mind you, for me, I'm not, particularly a big fan of the current way the economic system is working either. But it's certainly, for this to really be an issue at the forefront, people from everybody needs to we have to have it, the public, mostly recognize that it's a problem and just, understand that something has to be, we have to address it as a global community. And I think there's also the other factor too, is that there's a lack of leadership amongst countries too as well. And so, for example, like was the Paris Climate Agreement, there was a lot of, that was signed in 2016, there was a lot of leadership from, let's say, Barack Obama, which I'll give him that on really getting that going. But then ever since then, there wasn't really much leadership, and there was talk about maybe China could come in and take that role. Possibly, I even wrote an essay about that in my political science class that I took in undergrad during those times. So definitely, this is an issue that needs a lot of global cooperation too as well.
I was wondering when you were talking about decarbonizing, and I mean, like, there's a lot, like, especially, there's a lot of debate about, like how much people, like average people like us could decarbonize, right? Like, I can't afford to buy an EV, but I can certainly reduce the amount that I drive my gas-powered car, right? But then there's also, like here in California, they're looking at approximately 80 million acres of land to do carbon capture. So are you familiar with carbon capture?
Yes. Yeah.
And then, so is that going to be like a tenable option for dealing with this, or is that is that just a license to pollute more?
It could go both ways, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
Right. So there's a lot of talk about, the thing here is that up here in Canada, there's also talk of doing, let's say, carbon capture and storage. But the thing is that it's pushed a lot by the fossil fuel industry here. So the fossil fuel industry here in Canada is very, very powerful in terms of setting legislation and things like that. And so, but one of the things that they pushed for were two things. There was the carbon tax, which a lot of people today are still upset about for some reason. They think that that's what's causing inflation. There was economic studies that show that it really had minor effect on it, but one thing that they also pushed for in decarbonization was carbon capture and storage. But most of the time, that's being used to just simply prolong the extraction of fossil fuels more so than anything else. So, in my view, carbon capturing is pretty good as a solution once we've already decarbonized everything else. Once we've moved to switch off, so it makes sense in that regard.
Okay.
But if it's being used, let's say, to prolong, fossil fuel extraction or greenhouse, like more license to pollute, as you say, that's certainly like a form of greenwashing, in my opinion.
It
goes both ways.
I mean, I'm always suspicious when like one of the biggest proponents of it is like Shell, and that's the case. Like Shell is working with the governor of California on this like carbon capture project, and I'm like, really? Like, really?
And Shell obviously, and as I told you, Shell is part of the problem is they're also pushing for that because they want, you know, more. They want.
Tax breaks.
They just want to prolong the ability for them to just keep extracting fossil fuels. And the reason is because there's kind of a little bit of a loophole in the Paris Climate Agreement saying that, like, if there's fossil fuel extraction that's done with carbon capturing, then there's a bit of an exception for them to stay a little bit longer in that regard. So that's one of the issues too, in that sense.
Wow.
So there's sometimes exceptions like that were made. But again, you know, addressing that requires a lot of global leadership and global cooperation, and also, you know, making sure that, like, you know, that scientists are well heard at the COP meetings. I know there's issues where, like, you know, there's more lobbyists from fossil fuel industries and, you know, from indigenous people than indigenous representatives, or scientists themselves as well, or activists too. And which is sad because, you know, indigenous people around the world, there's actually a study that was done and shows that indigenous people are able to claim sovereignty. You know, the land there is actually pretty much kept intact and original. They're pretty much the best at conservation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, not pretty much, they are.
yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're the ones who are the best at, you know, conserving the land the way it is, and also making sure that remains unpolluted in that regard. Yeah, and yeah, so there's really a lot of things to really come into this, and I want to also bring back to the question about, like, let's say the economics of things. There was also mentioning about how, you know, like capitalism going, you know, being an issue is this, and yeah, and for me, I also want to kind of like disclose my political orientation now. So it is, so yeah, I am pretty much like the way to describe it would be socialist, but it's not like strict whatever kind of thing. So I'm more sort of like a very broad, you know, open to multiple perspectives kind of thing on that. And so one thing that I had a chat was actually one of my temporary colleagues here. She's from France, and and we were talking about the economics. You know, exactly how well suited is it to address things like this, like, you know, like, for example, with COVID, the pandemic, or with or just climate change and anthropogenic global warming. You know, and it really depends on how that is designed. And right now, I would say that it's completely incapable of doing that. You know, we looked at COVID, and like it's completely incapable to respond, let's say, to a health crisis like that. We've seen that, and it's also, and because it's incapable to respond to that, it's also incapable to respond to global warming, and that's because, you know, there's a concept in economics called externalities. Like I read about this a lot too as well, because this involves, you know, addressing pollution and things like that. So externalities is something that's pretty much either avoided in some of the economics or just completely brushed off. And so there's different kind of camps that decide to like define what is rational, and then they find that, okay, well, based on my definition of rationality, this is or a rational economic decision. That's you know, these externalities should either be incorporated or should be not, certain things like that. So it's just, that's just kind of like a small overview. And so I think for me, I think a good economic system that could be designed to sort of optimize, so that way it can be minimizing externalities, like negative externalities, and optimizing and maximizing positive ones for society. That would definitely, you know, allow us to have something that an economic system, a better way, probably something that's beyond capitalism, probably something that's more effective than that,
because
to address these crises.
Hopefully, because in our view, capitalism plus colonialism and the theft of indigenous lands are the primary causes of our current ecological crisis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
And I think
there's a lot of evidence to, link it back to capitalism,
yeah.
imperialism, and things like that. So with all of that, it's you know, it
And I know that
transfers a lot of
I know
different.
that
But
Jordan
yeah,
has to. I know that Jordan has to get going here, and
yeah.
I really want us to like schedule just a standalone episode with you to
Mm-hmm.
go on about this when we can all just like really delve into the topic. I do want to say on the issue of externalities, because I just published a couple papers about this last year. I don't think most people in politics today, especially in like America, but I think probably in other countries as well, even know some of these economic terms, and they don't really understand like the the depth of any of these. Economics is a science or climate science or air science or anything. Like they just do
Yeah.
not people in politics do not understand
Yeah.
what some of these concepts even mean. And that's not to say that they're all dumb. It's to say that they are totally vulnerable to what the lobby wants them to do or tells them to do.
Yeah.
Um,
What is the old Sinclair quote? Never. It's hard to get a man to understand something when his salary is dependent on him not understanding it.
yeah. And so I appreciate you bringing these concepts up because I mean I think it's things that we want to talk about more because I think that the more we talk about it, the more people do start to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Because our politicians don't. They do not. So
Yeah,
Absolutely, yes.
I agree. Would love to schedule an episode with you where we could just talk about all kinds of things climate change because this is, clearly a passion of Heather and mine.
Oh yeah, same here as well. It's a
yeah,
full
Yeah,
passion.
yeah, 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 for sure.
Uh,
It's what you do.
no,
It's your life. So I want to give everyone a chance on this call, Izzy and Waseem, to shout out your social media channels, anything relevant that you're working on right now before we get going for the night. So I'll start with you, Waseem, and then we'll end with you, Izzy.
so just like give concluding remarks.
Yeah, where can people find you online? And are you working
Oh,
on any papers or anything right now? Is there anything relevant that you're studying?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so people can find me online. There's my Instagram right now. I have it set to private because I haven't been really proactive at getting followers, but maybe I might make it public now that I'm uh, coming on podcasts and things like that. So I started taking this initiative. So yeah, you can find me on there. I'm also on Blue Sky and Mastodon as well, on those websites as well. I'm also I find that there's a lot more positive interaction on those as well. And yeah, and so what I'm working on right now is just working on my master's project. That's what I'm going to be doing for the next few months. Is just finishing that up, um, and hopefully finish that by December, and get my master's degree after that. So that will be exciting. Yeah, and if you want me to send like the link to any of my socials or any of that, I would be happy to provide that as well.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good. I'll put everything in the description.
Yeah.
Izzy, where can people find you and what are you working on right now?
Hello, you can find me at Anarch Orange, ANARCHORANG.com, and my handle on Instagram is Anarch Orange as well. I'm working on a few stories right now. They will be published soon. The movement keeps calling me back in, like everywhere I'm going. I'm reporting, like I'm bringing my camera wherever I go. I've been going to all these different schools over the past week and talking with the organizers and everything and really trying to get their thing publicized. It's just like a lot of campuses that the news isn't covering and just like emerging like grassroots organizations. It's going to be really cool. Once I figure out Adobe, I will have it. I will have it up. I can't promise when, but like, yeah. So that's what I'm working on. And if anyone has a tip or wants me to cover anything, you can email me at anarchorange@protonmail.com. You can be anonymous also. And I also have Signal. Just email me for that also.
Fuck yeah. I'm super excited to see you tomorrow.
Oh my god, I know! Oh. I'm so excited too! We haven't figured it out though.
I know. It's going to be fun. As always, the 805 Uncensored is on all the major social media and podcasting platforms. If you have any comments, questions, guest ideas, shoot us an email, 805uncensored@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you guys. And stay safe out there. Free Palestine. The revolution is you. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Bye!
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Yeah, it was a pleasure.